The Super Bowl is less than a week away. We're going to break down the side, the totals, hit up some of those prop bets, and of course, best bets coming up next on Bet On It. Kelly Stewart here. We're in the green money jacket because this is my last opportunity to make a little bit of money for football season with Marco D'Angelo and Gianni the Greek. That has been the name of the game. So thank you guys for hanging out with us all football season long. We'll be back for March Madness, but this is our last show for the 2025-2026 NFL season. Marco D'Angelo, I want to get right into this. This odds logic screen right now, pretty much 5, some 4.5 still. I don't know if we're going to see another 5.5, and I definitely don't think we're going to see a 6. We'll get into that here in a little bit. Total 45.5, but the money line has been rather interesting, especially looking at this screen around Vegas.
Kelly, around town, we've got different lines all over the place, and what you need to do is shop. We always tell you to have different outs, but right now you can bet Seattle minus 220 on the money line on the low end, up to 240 on the high end. And the reason for that with the different lines around town is each book has different liabilities, whether it's from the future market at the beginning of the season or if they've already taken some big bets. Now, one of the books in town that is always generally considered one of the sharp books is Circa, and they have the lowest line on Seattle, but there's a good reason for it. It started way back at the beginning. Somebody placed a Super Bowl exacta. And what that is you have to pick both Super Bowl participants and the winning team in the Super Bowl. Somebody took the exacta, New England and Seattle, with New England winning it. That was at plus 3,100 odds. They bet $100, which that $100 bet puts them on liability for $310,000. Now, to a sports book, $310,000, that's not going to take anybody out of business. But when it's only a $100 investment, that's something that you don't want to see happen. So they are trying to invite some Seattle money at their book to try to offset their liability. And then to make matters worse, they took a $1.1 million bet on New England money line, and that furthered their liability even more. So shop around, you'll find the best line. And I'm sure when you go to VR, he'll tell you too, Super Bowls, money line are just like heavyweight fights. You're going to see a better price come game day on the favorite because the tourists want to bet the money line and they want to bet the underdog.
I'm not sure if that's the case here, Marco. I got off the phone with John Murray this morning. I know you're going to see him Friday at the Westgate Superbook. And I said, John, what's going on? You guys went back to 5? And he said, yeah, we just wanted to kind of see. Right now they're booking the game at minus 108, minus 105 through the weekend. And I said, well, what do you mean? He goes, so we just tipped it back to 5 just to see if we could get any interest. And he goes, no dice. And I said, okay, are we going to see a 5.5? We're going to see a 6? And he said, no, we're not going to see a 6. He'd be very surprised to see it. So I found that really interesting because I'm looking at all these notes he told me and I'm like, what? Why? It doesn't make a lot of sense to me that they're not seeing any of the push from the Patriots side of things. It's 70+% of the tickets on Seattle. And if they are betting the Patriots, they're betting the Patriots on the money line.
Yeah, Kelly, the one thing, and I did talk to John on Friday, and he said, the exact same thing. He says, we're getting all Seattle money yet. But you have to remember, the public hasn't bet yet, Kelly. The public, the tourists are going to come to town Thursday night and Friday. That's when they'll start hitting Vegas, and that's when they'll start betting on the weekend. And even the locals, we know that, and we talk about that all the time. The sharps will get their money down whenever they think it is the best time to do so. The public doesn't bet until game day or the day before. And the reason is they just don't have the bankroll to tie their money up 4, 5, 6 days in advance because they want to play basketball every day. And they need that money so they can play on a daily basis and not have all their money tied up for the weekend. Like with think about all the props and people, if you're betting 10, 15 props, which a lot of people are going to be doing, they don't want to tie that money up until the day of the game. And the props that can be graded once they happen always get graded right away by the sports books that have apps, because they want to put that money back into your account if you hit, so you have money to go ahead and bet something else during the game.
Very, very good point, Marco. VR, you and I always talk about the different steam in what we saw, right? I was shocked to see this line get steamed right away. 3.5 for Seattle early in the week. Kept on going. We saw 5.5 last Monday. I was doing the opening line report with Teddy. I said, Teddy, I'm gonna take it. I have to take it, Teddy. I have to take the 5.5. So I did take it, thinking, hey, like Marco said, maybe I can find a cheap number on Seattle money line in middle of the Super Bowl. All will be right in the world in a perfect scenario. But talk to me about what you've seen from sharp accounts. Talk to me how you've seen the market and how you're interpreting what is happening here. And maybe do you think we see a 6?
I wasn't surprised where the books brought the number out, because they're going to bring it as close to the power rating as possible, where they think that the sharpest groups have their NFL power ratings. And that's where they're going to bring the number out. And then they're going to let the market decide. They know early on the market's going to be sharp bettors. It's going to be wise guys that bet the Super Bowl. They're going to help them shape the number a little bit. Well, most of the money bet by betting syndicates is going to be on the props. It's not going to be on the side. It's not going to be on the total. It's going to be a small bet, if anything, or a lot of times it's even middle or manipulation, just taking advantage of the market, knowing which way the market's going to move. And in this game, it was obvious it was going to move in the side of Seattle. And here's why. Number one, the argument was what New England was the whole season. Are they legit? Are they for real? They keep winning one-score games. They have the weakest strength of schedule. Nobody played an easier schedule than New England. They play in the weakest division. It was all the questions have been on the New England side. And coming in, what did New England do in the playoffs? They beat the Chargers. They put up only 16 points. They beat Houston. They put up 28 points. And then what did they do? They beat Denver by 3 and only put up 10 points. What's to get excited about New England? On the other side, look at what Seattle's run coming in. They had shut out Minnesota 26-0, then beat Atlanta by 30, beat the Colts, beat the Rams, went to Carolina, knocked them out by 17, beat San Francisco on the road, then put 41 up on San Francisco in the playoffs, then put 31 up on the Rams in the playoffs. So obviously a team coming in having scored 72 points and keeping their opponents to 33 in 2 playoff games and outperforming the betting market by a combined probably 4 touchdowns, they're usually going to get some attention at the betting window. And that's exactly what's happened. But rest assured, New England money's going to come in like it does every Super Bowl. Why? Because these are 2 of the best teams in the NFL, and they're both going to attract money when it's all said and done. Everyone's going to have an opinion on this game, and it's the most bet sporting event all year. And most of the money that comes in is not even bettors that have been, following the NFL all season long. And I agree with Marco. That money hasn't even gotten to the window yet. It will not get to the window until Saturday night, Sunday morning. And I do agree that the money line on New England is going to do only one thing, and that's going to drop. If you like the New England side and you want to bet the plus money, I would not wait, because even though the argument is Seattle bettors might come in and bet the money line, I don't think you'll get enough recreational bettors willing to lay over 2-1 in a game like this, where they'll lay the 11 to win 10 on the point spread, I think, on the Seattle side. But I think on the New England side, getting them to win the Super Bowl at plus money, I think will be more attractive. And usually that's what happens out here, where the money line isn't a reflection of the point spread. And there's usually a positive EV if you bet the favorite late on the money line. So Seattle on the money line should offer up a decent bet before kickoff if history holds true, and the New England money comes in. Because again, if you're sitting back and you like New England and you're seeing this line open 3.5, go to 4.5, go to 5, like you said, Kel, is it going to go to 6? You're more sophisticated. You talk to bookmakers, odds makers, sharp bettors. Everyone doesn't have access like that. So you were able to conclude quickly, nah, this probably isn't getting the 6. But I'm sure there's a lot of bettors out there that think, hey, this may get the 6. Let me wait till Sunday. And I think they are waiting, if they've taken the New England side, until closer to the weekend. And I do think that money will come in. And as I've said, I've been here for 30 plus Super Bowls, and there's only one Super Bowl that they did not make money, and they barely lost pennies on the dollar. And that was when the Giants upset New England, because they had so much New York Giants money line action that it didn't even matter. All the negative EV teasers, negative EV parlays didn't matter when they were paying out 4-1, 5-1 on all the straight bets that were on the Giants and all the money line parlays that were tied in with the Giants and the total. And that's what happened in that Super Bowl. But that's a very, very rare occasion. Otherwise, they make money regardless of the outcome. And as I said before, when they kick off, the books are going to be very close, much closer to 50-50 than they are now. Granted, they're going to prefer one result over another. But at the end of the day, whether the New England covers, Seattle covers, it goes over, it goes under, next Monday, here's what you're going to hear. This is what was bet. This is what the hold was. And I will venture a guess on this Super Bowl, the hold will probably be somewhere between 11 and 13%, somewhere around 10, 14%, somewhere around there is what they'll profit off this Super Bowl when the dust settles.
Yeah, I was really shocked to see John Murray tell me that 60% of their handle right now is wrapped up in props. I was like, holy cow. So not only have we seen, since VR's been betting the Super Bowl in Las Vegas, since Marco's been betting the Super Bowl in Las Vegas, that was my first Super Bowl in Las Vegas, was the Giants upsetting the Patriots. And I might have been the only person inside the Caesars Sportsbook with a New England ticket that day. The entire place was going absolutely nuts. All Giants bettors. It was crazy. But Marco, back to this side. I know you have a stronger opinion than I do. I know VR's got a 5% play on this. So you are on an island here. Make a case here for the side that you like.
Well, Kelly, and again, we get a lot of grief whenever we bash a team, and we say that, and I'm not going to use the word that they, fraudulent, because people don't like that. And I'm not going to say that, because New England's done everything they're supposed to do. They beat who was in front of them. But, the fact is, and VR already addressed it, they did play, the softer schedule. In the playoffs, they really couldn't have had a better situation arise for them in the playoffs. And again, I'm not bashing them. I'm just pointing out facts. They got to play the Chargers in the first round. The Chargers had big offensive line problems, and that New England defense was able to pressure Justin Herbert the whole game. He was under duress in that game. When he was able to get the ball off, they were completing passes, but more often he was running for his life or getting sacked. That was how they won the first game. And it was a warm weather team playing in the cold. Then what do you have in the second game? You had horrible field conditions weather-wise. Houston comes to town, which is an indoor team. They play New England, and they struggled in that game. CJ Stroud, just like he did in the Pittsburgh game in the first week of the playoffs, was horrible. 5 turnovers again for the Texans. This time they weren't able to overcome it, and New England won that game. But New England wins that game, what was it, 28-16? It was still a close game in the third quarter, even with the weather conditions and with the turnovers. Then what do they catch in the third game? They go on the road and they play Denver, who has to start a quarterback that hasn't thrown a pass in over 2 years. All right. And then they get bad weather on top of that in that game as well. So neither team could move the football. They haven't been impressive in winning. They're winning, but there's asterisks to those wins, and you can't overlook that. On the flip side of things, as A said, Seattle can't look any better than they've been right now, and they've got a stellar defense. You look at what New England's done, and again, their offense hasn't been explosive, because they've played in bad weather. That's part of it. But they also have played a couple better defenses, and this is going to be the best defense they have faced in the playoffs. Seattle is, the second best. If they're not the best, they're the second best in the NFL. And people are going to say, yeah, but look at the points they gave up to the Rams. The Rams are an elite offense, okay? That's one. And I don't care how good, your defense is when you've got an offense that has as many weapons and a quarterback that's in the talk for MVP. And yes, I know Drake May is in the talk for MVP as well, but Stafford has been there and done that. Then you also throw in, with all those weapons that they have, that facing Seattle is a division rival that you face 2 times every year. So you're going to have more success because you know each team's strengths and weaknesses, and that's what you drill upon. New England has been able to put pressure on the quarterbacks with a lot of blitz packages because they've had compromised offenses that they faced. Seattle is not that. Seattle can run the football. Seattle can beat you with the pass, and they've got 3 different wide receivers that you've got to concern yourself with. Yes, they're thin at running back because of the injury, but Kenneth Walker's done everything. They haven't missed a beat with him since he's been the featured back because of the injury. I like them in this spot. And then the last question mark, Sam Darnold, okay? Do you think he's exercised all those ghosts? In the 3 biggest games of the year, the final game of the regular season, when they went on the road to San Francisco, winner take all for the number 1 seed, they won that game, dominated San Francisco. And then the 2 playoff games, they dominated offensively, the middle game against San Francisco, and then the last one, they went back and forth with the Rams, but they prevailed. You know what they did in that game, Sam Darnold? 3 games, 0 turnovers. This is the winningest quarterback in the NFL the last 2 seasons. But yet the public, and you talk about, we get, trashed for saying somebody played an easy schedule, and, we bash the team for their schedule. How come nobody bashes the media, including us, that all we dwelled upon with Sam Darnold was the last 2 games of last season? That's it. And what happened? The Minnesota Vikings didn't re-sign him. Where would the Vikings have been this year if they had Sam Darnold and what he did in Seattle? I like Seattle. I like Sam Darnold. I think they get the job done. I'm going to go ahead with Seattle, and I will find different ways to play Seattle for the Super Bowl for my clients. We'll have Seattle, but we'll have them in multiple different ways.
All right, VR. One of the things that I find interesting is this total has not moved. 45.5, sitting steady over a week now. So I asked John Murray, I said, John Murray, what's going on with this? Why aren't you guys booking to need the under? They always, every single year, say, oh, we want a boring game. We want, none of these player props to go over. And he said, that's exactly it. We don't need to book for the total because we need to book for the props. And he goes, and generally those things are correlated. But there's going to be plenty of people out here that want to tease the total, even though we would probably disagree with that. Or maybe you would actually agree in this case with the side. But I'm genuinely curious, what do you think happens to this number? Do you think it stays steady 45.5 through the weekend? Have you seen any sharp groups on the total one way or another?
No, but I've seen sharp bettors taking the under, and that's what's slowly moving this total half a point at a time. It hasn't been one of those betting syndicate bot moves that moves the whole screen simultaneously like a whole point where it all lights up. But slowly but surely, since the total came out, you've been getting some limit bets from sharp bettors out there that get respect. And that's why it's been ticking down. With that said, when the public gets involved, even with the top, 3 defenses playing in this game, I think number 1 for Seattle, number 3 for New England, or something like, top 3, both of those in efficiency, I don't think they're going to bet this one under. Even seeing that New England coming off a real low scoring game, I think that's going to be the narrative is going to be the bad weather and obviously Denver's defense. And I think you're going to start getting over money, and I see it ticking back up. I don't think you're going to get the opener. I think it opened 47.5 at some places. I don't think it's going to get as high as that, but I do think you're going to get the 46s, 46.5s, maybe even juice to the over. I wouldn't be surprised to see the square shops get the 47 on Sunday. Because again, you're going to start getting not just straight bets on the over, you're going to start getting a lot of teasers on the over. And there's not really a number you want teaser protect when it comes to totals. But obviously, the higher the total, the higher the tease is going to have to go over as well. They're not going to be teasing it to the under, that's for sure. So they have to factor that in. And that's why I do think it'll start going back up. But again, it'll be sharps versus squares, where the books will want the sharps to be right with it staying under and it being a boring Super Bowl. Even though I can tell you this, Kel, and if you look at those books that have been putting out information as far as saying where the money's coming in on their props, all of them are pointing to overs. And that money coming in early on those props is not public money. Now, not all of those will be true positions. A lot of those will be middles. Once the public bets them over also, they'll have an even nicer middle come Sunday. But a handful of them are legit. So that's where the disconnect is, because I know a lot of the props have been bet over already by sharp bettors. So it'll be interesting because, again, there's the disconnect between the props and the total, and how the books obviously want a boring game. And they want all player props to stay under. That's obviously, and all the, yes, no's, the heavy chalk to cash. But yeah, I've seen a lot of player prop steam go over so far on these.
Would you say that's because they want to get out ahead of the market and they know that come Saturday, Sunday, they're going to be able to take the under if they wanted to?
Yes, 100%. And also, I think they came out a little short on some of these numbers because of the defense. When you look at these two teams, again, Seattle number 1, New England number 2. I'm looking right now just to confirm. Number 1 in defense, number 2 in defense when you're talking about efficiency. So you have the number 1 team and the number 2 team. Obviously, strength of schedule matters. Seattle had the 11th. New England had 32nd. But yeah, that you're looking at two very, very, very good defenses. So yeah, I think they brought some of those player props out a little bit short, and they got reamed a handful of those overs.
Marco, I know you were down there the night of the prop release. I did find it really interesting because there were some guys that were standing in line that either were Wager Talk employees or other guys putting out content that did bet some overs. And typically that's not it. When you're looking for player props, what are you looking for?
Well, Kelly, I wasn't actually down there that night because I was going to be there the next day with John Murray doing the show and such. But, one thing I will say, and here's a trivia question for you two guys. We talked about, Ace mentioned what Super Bowl that the books lost. What was the best Super Bowl for the books?
The god-awful Rams-Patriots Super Bowl that was like the worst day ever. It was the worst Super Bowl party I've ever hosted. I had over 3.5 field goals, and I forget the name of the kicker of the Rams who missed 2 of them. It was just a heinous Super Bowl.
It was a great Super Bowl for the books. It was their biggest windfall ever. And then if you want to, poke the bear when you do your show with John Murray, one of the worst ones for him was last year.
Because of all the garbage time in the fourth quarter.
Yes, Kansas City wouldn't give up and was getting all that trash, right, and sent all of the props over. So that's the thing. And people remember things like that, recency bias. So what Ace said, and whenever I'm looking to play, if I have a prop that I want to bet over, I'm doing it early. If I have a prop that I'm betting under, I'm doing that on Saturday and Sunday, as late as I can possibly do. Now, the one thing is, what happens if you wait till Sunday? And it's a little bit easier, obviously, now with all of the apps, because you can just log in and do your stuff. But you're also going to be fighting the sharps that are going to be looking to pick off the same numbers. And if you're doing it live in person in Vegas, get there early and get in line, because if you've never been to a Vegas sports book on a Sunday morning on Super Bowl Sunday, it is total chaos. The lines are deep. Everybody's making their bets. And like you said, for me being a horse player, it's like on a big Kentucky Derby day. You get behind somebody in line and they're taking forever because they don't know what they're doing. And you just want to reach over and strangle them to get out of your way. So general rule of thumb, if you like an over, bet it now. If you like an under, bet it Saturday, early Sunday morning. Those are my tips as far as the prop bets go.
All right, let's get into some of these best bets. Before we do, make sure you guys head over to the Wager Talk homepage and check out Ralph's Super Bowl prop guide. He has done such an awesome job with this. And of course, it is free. So head over there, wt.buzz/RM for Ralph Michaels, or just go to the download section and you can download the entire PDF. He has tons of stuff like recent history, 18 dogs, 6 favorites, 1 pick'em. That one I thought was really, really interesting. VR, I'm going to go to you first. Let's go into these best bets. I want to hear, I know you've got a 5% play up on wagertalk.com. So talk about that as well as what people need to be betting for the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I got 11 bets in that package already, and I'm staying very, very selective. Even less props than past years, but there was just a ton of value on the board, and I even sent one out this morning. But I'll give a 4%. I have 2 4% in there that are props. I'll give one as a best bet, and I'm going to go with George Holani for Seattle. Receptions over 1.5. Here's why I like this pick, because when you look at his season average, the guys that are just looking at the math, it's going to be like, hey, he doesn't average all that much. Why? Well, he hasn't played. But now you need him. And straight off the injured reserve, you saw how well he played. They don't have their star running back. Charbonnet's been out, and now you got Holani and Kenneth Walker back there. Walker's not the type of back that's going to be able to, just rush for 50 carries. So Holani's going to get some play. And the one thing he is good at, what we've seen historically, is he doesn't drop balls. Like if you target him, he's going to catch it. He's been targeted, I think, 7 times this year. 6 times he caught the ball. So just get the ball near this guy. He's going to get his hands on it. And with the skill position players that Seattle has, even though Holani had a decent game against the Rams, he's not up high enough up in that skill position depth chart where you're going to game plan for Holani. Like it's not like we got to eliminate Holani and we'll be fine defensively. So I think that bodes well for us, as well as Seattle checking down with that New England very, very capable defense. I do think they're going to target him again coming out of the backfield. Catch one in the first half, one in the second half, and we cash our ticket. Easy 6 out of 10 times you cash this. So anything 150 or better, this is worth 4% play, which for me is 1% of bankroll.
VR, I want to kick it back to you really quickly because a lot of these propositions are juiced. And I don't understand how to calculate the appropriate amount of juice, right? So one of the videos that we saw up on the Wager Talk Instagram was Teddy Covers talking about 3 unanswered scores and how it used to be the wise guy bet back in the day. But now at minus 170, it's unbettable, right? So when determining some of these prop bets, how much juice are you willing to lay? And what should people be looking at as far as parameters go? It's really such a new world to me. I know props have been around for a while, but it's not something that I've really spent a ton of time on when it comes to the Super Bowl because it's juiced, right? Like I know how to calculate player props. All right, the last 15 games, player X has done this. Here's what he's done against opposing defenses. Here's what he's done against bottom 5 defenses. Those types of things are a lot easier. But when you start making something minus 130, minus 140, 50, you're paying a premium in my mind, but I know that the wise guys will still bet those because they made it minus 170.
Yeah. And that's a great question and topic to cover because I see it all the time weekly. Also, here's what the comparison in with the props. It's the comparison of like buying points where now not only do you have to go over 38.5, but now it's 38.5 minus 140. So you're still getting the 38.5, but not at minus 110. Now it's at minus 140. So your break even is now a lot higher. You now have to hit this bet at a higher clip for it to be profitable. And that's what they're doing with a lot of these props, because it's a way also to stop them from being middled. By adjusting the juice rather than adjusting the total, you limit the opportunity of the middle, because you're now not moving the yardage. You're not going from over 38.5 yards to 42.5. So now if it lands 39, 40, 41, you get middled. Instead, now just start adding juice. So now if you want to go over 38.5, you got to lay minus 130, 140, 150, because at minus 110, he has to go over 38.5, 52.5% of the time. But if they put it up to where you got to lay minus 150, now he's got to do it 60% of the time for you to break even. They just added 8% to implied win probability without even changing the number. They just had to change the VIG. And to most recreational bettors, that disconnect is where the books are able to make the kind of hold that they do, because they look at it as getting a better number. And nothing could be further from the truth. You're not getting a better number. In fact, you're getting a worse number, because now you're paying more for it. So it's like you're just going over 40.5. You're not going over 38.5 anymore. It just says 38.5, but because now you're laying minus 150 for it, it's not 38.5 anymore. And I think the books, knowing that most bettors aren't looking at their wagers this way, is why they continue to do it. And I think that's a great point. And when you're betting these props, you have to pay attention, not just what the number is, but what is the juice that they're attaching. Because like I said, I like over 1.5 receptions for Helani. I gave it out to my subscribers, I think minus 130, 135, 140. If they have it up to minus 160, 165 now, that value's been extracted. It's still 1.5 receptions, but I wouldn't bet it at that number anymore. So you always want to have in your mind, what does that money line mean? And there's nothing wrong with pulling it up and go to Google Moneyline conversion and pull up the chart and print it out and keep it on your desk or keep it in front of you until you automatically look at minus 300 and it's 70%. Like those numbers will start becoming automatic. But if you're going to be playing these props, you have to pay attention to the money line as well as what the total is. So that's a great point that Kelly brought up. And for me, I always just, if once that moves too much, I know that it's too late. Like if the implied win probabilities moved more than like 2, 3, 4%, I'm gone. Because the most they're ever going to have a true edge is maybe like a 4 or 5%. So if it's already moved 4 or 5%, like what was the edge in the first place? Why did they have a double-digit edge? If they did, why'd they stop betting? So I would keep it around that. Like if it moves implied win probability 1, 2%, you're good. Once it gets past that, I would be cautious. And the last point, I don't want to go long, but this is what you have to remember. The difference between minus 150, for example, like a minus 150 is 60% break even. A minus 160 is 61.5%. So that 10 cents is 1.5% difference. But the difference between, minus 300 and minus 310 is not even 0.1%, not even 0.5%. As you go up in money line, the percentage gets smaller and smaller. Like minus 300 is a 75% break even, minus 400 is 80% break even. That's only a 5% difference, even though you're going from a minus 300 to a minus 400. You're moving like a whole 100 cents, and it's only a changing implied win probability by 5%. But you move from minus 150 to minus 200, that 50 cents, and you move the whole 7% in implied win probability. So pull that chart up. It's a lifesaver.
Woo! That made me really tired, but the math guys will be
sorry.
happy. Thank you for VR for breaking that down. It is true. It is a lot that goes into it. And there's a lot of implied probability calculators you guys can use online. I know I use them every single day because I don't want to do the hard work. Marco D'Angelo, we're going to get into your best bet here in a minute, but can you let everybody know what is going on over at wagertalk.com for the Super Bowl? And of course, what do you have up for the Super Bowl? I heard you mention earlier that you have like kind of a myriad hybrid, lots of things tied in with the Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah, Kelly, we'll have, and here's one thing that I want to say about another tip for your wagers with props and stuff. When you do your stuff, it is going to be an extension of your handicap. Okay. A lot of your props are going to line up that way. You know, if you think a certain thing's going to happen, you're going to do correlated, not actually parlays, but you're going to have correlated props that match that. But one thing you should do, and it's just like when you're investing, don't put all of your eggs in one basket. Diversify your portfolio. And that should be the same when you're doing your props. Have props that you can win both ways, no matter what happens with the game. You know, don't put everything that has got to be one thing that happens, because then if you have a Super Bowl where you're completely wrong, or you have a Super Bowl like we talked about the Rams New England Super Bowl a few years ago, everything goes up in smoke with one result. You don't want to have that. But what we do have over at Wager Talk this week, since it is the Super Bowl, and a lot of people, their subscriptions will be ending. They bought packages through the Super Bowl. We're coming out with our best offer of the year. You can get Super Bowl to Super Bowl. Sign up, $1,188. Okay, comes out to just $99 a month. You can pick your favorite handicapper and get all of their plays in every sport for that period of time. You'll start when you sign up, and it'll go through the Super Bowl next year. Great way to jump on board, lock in your favorite capper. You'll never miss a play. But that's not all. You get a bonus with it as well. We're giving everybody that signs up for this package, no matter what capper you sign up for, you're going to receive a bonus coupon. That coupon is going to be for 25% off. That means anytime you buy anybody else during that subscription, Super Bowl to Super Bowl, you can take 25% off your purchase. That is a great membership benefit when you buy the Super Bowl to Super Bowl. So head over to wagertalk.com, pick your favorite capper. You can buy as many cappers as you want on this special. Take advantage of it. Me personally, for the Super Bowl on Sunday, I will have a package together that will have multiple plays in it regarding the Super Bowl. I'll have sides, totals, some first half wagers, second half wagers, props. You'll get everything that I give to my clients all in one package. Look for that Super Bowl package on my homepage. And don't forget, a lot of you guys, and I want to thank you guys for watching Marco's Deli. It was a great year with the football. So far, it's been an even better year with the basketball. We decided 4 weeks ago to keep the deli open through basketball season. We had 5 plays on the deli this week, 4-1 with the deli. That comes out Friday afternoons for Saturday games, and if sometimes a Sunday play. We're giving you the plays, breaking down the situations for you, telling you if it's a sandwich, a trap, whatever. Tune in Friday, late afternoon here on the West Coast, early evening on the East Coast for Marco's Deli. And that's what I've got going this week, Kelly.
All right, Marco, give me your best bet for the Super Bowl. I'm excited because I do love to dabble in the props, and you have a good one for us.
Yeah, Kelly, I'm going to give you actually 2 plays. One's going to be a side play. One's going to be a prop play. The prop play that I like, and it's kind of correlated when I give you the side play. I'm going to bet which half is the higher scoring half. And I'm taking the second half as the higher scoring half. And here's why. We talk about it with the Super Bowl. When you start the Super Bowl, it's just like a heavyweight boxing match. You're going to look at the game. The coaches don't want to be the ones to make the first mistake. It's like 2 heavyweights getting in there. They're not throwing haymakers as soon as the opening bell sounds. They're filling each other out. They're going jabs. And that's what ends up happening in the Super Bowl. One of the most popular props with a lot of sharps is, will there be a score in the first 6.5 minutes of the Super Bowl? Okay. And it's a bet because teams are conservative. They would be more likely to 4th and 2 punt the football instead of going for it, as we've seen so often this year, because they don't want to make that mistake or take that chance to flip field position. So I'm going to go the second half to be the higher scoring half. And this year, I think it's going to be even more so because New England, everything that Drake May has done, and he's had a fantastic season. As I said, it's going to be him or Stafford for the MVP. He is just a second-year quarterback, okay? And I've made the reference time and time again. One of my biggest Super Bowls, personally, betting-wise for me, was the Miami Dolphins against the San Francisco 49ers. That was back in 85, but it was actually the 84 season Super Bowl. They got drilled. Dan Marino, second-year quarterback, makes his first Super Bowl. It's just tough to go there. Now, he's not going against a veteran quarterback, but he's going against a veteran that's been in a Super Bowl as well, but he's going against a veteran quarterback that's been around the league. So I think that the second half, things will open up. They will make halftime adjustments. So you can get this wager. I've seen it anywhere from -125 to -135, second half being the higher scoring half. Now, with that said, the play that I'm going to use for a side wager for you guys here on the show is I'm going to take Seattle and I'm going to lay the 3 points in the first half. This is a spot where I'm going to trust their defense and I'm going to trust the fact that Mike Vrabel's not going to take chances in that first half with his young quarterback. And I think that defense is going to put pressure on New England. And if you look in the 3 games, and granted, I'll be the first to point it out, New England has played in bad weather in all of their games, but they haven't scored a lot of points in the first half. And I think Seattle, with that offense and with the weapons they have, they can run the football down your throat. They can throw the football with the wide receivers. I think they're going to have the early lead in this game. Give me Seattle -3 first half. Give me the second half. Prop bet is the higher scoring half. Those are my 2 plays for you guys here on the show this week.
All right, Marco, VR, these guys are the best. Make sure you be sure to tell them that in the comment section. We're running long, so I'm just going to tell you guys, I'm on the Patriots. If you guys saw opening line report, KIV and Crack, Kelly and Murray. Every show I've done this week, I've given you guys my synopsis, so we're just going to wrap it up really quickly. I don't think we're going to see another 5.5, but grab that 5 -108 right now over at the Westgate Superbook. And I'm not going to sprinkle on the money line. I might come back after listening to Marco. I might come back if I can get like a low. I don't think I'm going to get that lucky. I don't think I'm going to get a low $2 bet on the Seahawks, but I'm going to keep an eye out for it and maybe try to middle this one. Thank you guys for watching with us all season long from VR, Marco, and myself. Until next football season, let's bet on it.
Who doesn't love the Super Bowl? I am Ralph Michaels. This is the Super Bowl T&A report. Thanks for tuning in. We're going to talk about a prop that has gone 15-1. We're going to talk about a prop that is 8-1 the last 9 years. And I'm going to give you a free prop client release at the end of this video. Thank you for tuning in. First, all the information we're going to go over today is in the free Wager Talk Super Bowl prop report. I do it annually. It continues to grow. Thank you to everyone that's already downloaded it. Just head to my homepage at Wager Talk, wt.buzz/RM. And yes, of course, it is absolutely free. Well, let's talk a couple general situations first. Dogs or favorites? What has covered the last few Super Bowls? Well, the last 5 Super Bowls has not only been covered by the underdog, it's been won straight up. In fact, if you do like the dog, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. The last 12 times the dog covered the Super Bowl, it actually won the Super Bowl as well. So think about that. If you're on New England, you might want to sprinkle some on the money line as well. As far as over-unders are concerned, we've gone 2-0-1 the last 3 years. Last year's Super Bowl, of course, Philly got out to that huge lead. It went over. The year before, the overtime game, which pushed, and then prior to that, KC and Philly went over the total. The 4 years before that, 4 straight unders. So no long-term trends as far as the totals are concerned. Well, when you download the free prop guide, you're going to see the last 16 years. I think there's 34 props listed, and it gives you the results of each prop and when they occurred or how many yards those team gains. Remember, it's important that if a prop is winning by 1 yard, there's a lot of fluctuation or randomness in there. But if there's some props that are covering clearly, those have a little more value in my eyes. Well, I pulled out 4 props. Let's go through those records, some of the most popular props that many of you do bet. Will the first play of the game be a run or a pass? Well, that's pretty simple. I'll tell you what, the last 4 Super Bowls have all been a run, and 6 of the last 7 have been run first, and that's been plus money. The pass has been negative money. The run has been plus money. Keep an eye on that. 4-0, as well as 6 of the last 7, a run has been the first play of the game. Prop number 2. Will there be a score in the first 6 minutes of the game? Now, 6.5 minutes used to be the tradition. We now see those numbers coming down because of these results. The last 2 years, no score the first 6 minutes. And 8 of the last 9 seasons, there has been no score the first 6 minutes of the game. So if you're finding value with that game and you're getting 6 minutes at about even money or maybe a few minutes juice, take a look at that. It's a prop I do like. Teams tend to be conservative to start the season, to start the Super Bowl. They don't want their quarterbacks making mistakes. Therefore, they run the ball, they run the clock. They have their plays called. The defense is prepping against those teams. It is a prop that I often bet. Haven't bet it yet this year. We'll see if I do. Will there be a score the last 2 minutes of the first half? Well, this has been a yes for 3 straight years. And in the last 16 seasons, it has been 11 yeses and 5 nos. Again, another prop, recent format, and long-term. Which half will be the higher scoring half? Again, overtime does get added into the second half. Well, the last 2 Super Bowls, we've seen the second half being a higher score. And in the last 13 years, 8 second halves, 4 first halves, and 1 push. So second half, being the higher scoring half, has cashed 67% the last 13 years. Before I get to that 15-1 prop and my free client play, I just want to mention, please hit that like button, leave a comment, it helps our algorithms, and make sure you're following Wager Talk on all their social media networks. Over 300,000 people follow Wager Talk Media. You should as well. Again, please do me a favor, hit that like button and leave any comments, positive or negative, you wish to share with me and the entire Wager Talk family. Well, I put a couple fun things in the props as well. The Gold Sheet does an annual party prop. So if you're having a party, print off those sheets, give them out. Follow us on Twitter. And Gianni Detroit tweets out those results as soon as they happen. It's a fun way to have fun at your party. And I also have squares results. Most of us buy a square for the Super Bowl and have fun. Well, in the last 16 years, that means there's been 64 quarters because each square for a game has 4 payouts. first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, and final score. So in the 16 years, there have been 64 quarter results. The most popular, this isn't going to surprise you, 0-0 has occurred 8 times. So if you think about it, if you have 0-0, I'm quickly using my calculator here, it's 1 out of 8. Or if you have 0-0, your odds of cashing a square has been 12.5%. Only 3 other numbers have hit 3 times. So it's been very, very random. There haven't been good numbers. There haven't been bad numbers. And if you think, wow, I got 7 and 7, that's the numbers I want for squares. It has happened only 1 time the last 64 squares, 64 quarters, that 7 and 7 is hit. So it's not a number that will likely pay you off. Again, every Super Bowl is unique. We'll see what happens this year. All right, let's get to the final 2 pieces of this video. This prop had hit 15 straight and it lost last year. Does that mean we're going to fade it? Not at all. It's the team to score last wins the game. So while in the NFL regular season, we have a lot of backdoor touchdowns, defensive coordinators, entirely different mentality in the Super Bowl. Now, last year, the team to score last was Kansas City. They didn't win the game. But remember this. KC was down massive. Philly was up, what, 20-0, 27-0 at half. So even though you are prepping for the defense, when you're up that big, you do have a letdown on the defense. And of course, Mahomes scored 2 fourth-quarter touchdowns to score. But the team to score last is still 15-1 the last 16 Super Bowls. And my actual client release, which I'm sharing with you now, the shortest touchdown under 1.5 yards. Now, a lot of people look and say, oh my gosh, that means they have to have a 1-yard touchdown to win this prop. Well, I'll tell you what, it happens more than you think. In the Super Bowl, it is 4-1 the last 5 years and 8-2, 80% the last 10 Super Bowls. Remember, pass interference in the end zone brings the ball out to the 1. We had Philly with all those tush pushes that keeps getting closer to the line. A penalty moves the ball ahead as well. All of those situations in the Super Bowl with pressure-packed situations, defenses pressure on the goal line, jumping offsides, has led, again, to many first 1-yard touchdowns for the game. That is a 2% client release. That prop, again, 4-1 the last 5 years, 8-2, 80% the last 10 years. I am Ralph Michaels, #1 college basketball the last 30 days. Looking forward to having a massive finish. I have a coupon loaded on my homepage, wt.buzz/RM. Enjoy the Super Bowl, bet responsible, and have a great final game of the 2025 NFL season.
This Super Bowl bet sounds sharp, but it isn't. And it took me losing this same stupid prop bet 3 different times before I figured it out and started making fun of my sharp buddies for making this bet every year. What's the bet? Will there be 3 unanswered scores or 3 consecutive scores for either team? And the yes is priced -170, -180. The no is the plus price on this. And you say, of course some team's going to score 3 times in a row, right? Even as a blowout. Last year, Philly scored 6 times in a row to start the game. Yeah, well, when you're laying 170 or -180 on a prop, it's got to be better than 50-50. And this prop over the last 10 years, 5 wins, 5 losses. Lots of games, you don't get 3 scores in a row for either team. It goes back and forth, back and forth. Some games don't have a whole lot of scoring, back and forth, back and forth. So I call it a bet that looks sharp, but it isn't. Why isn't it? Because it loses, that's why. Stop being a sucker. Here's 3 prop bets that the public always bets every year, and why that matters and why they lose. So, real simple. Fade or follow, here's a quick breakdown. All right. First bet the public makes every year. Yes on overtime. Second bet the public makes every year. Yes, there will be a safety. Third bet the public makes every year. Yes, there will be a 2-point conversion. Why do they make these bets? You risk a little to win a lot. The pros don't look for those big plus prices. That's, as we call, the sucker bet. All right? Yes, we've seen 2 overtimes in 59 previous Super Bowls. That's not 8-1. That's not 10-1. That's 25-1. Real odds. All right, or 30-1. Yes, we did see a safety in 3 state Super Bowls. The last time that happened, 2014. You're betting the yes safety prop, you've lost the last 11 years in a row. And yeah, we did see a 2-point conversion last year. But again, the price isn't right. Sucker bets the public makes that the wise guys won't touch. Easy money every Super Bowl. Shh. But these are 2 prop bets I make every single year. They cash in the first quarter, and I bet them every year because they win. Here's what's up. First play of the game, run or pass. They always go conservative. We expect a run on the first play of the game. Last year was Saquon running for 4 yards on the first play. So we take the run, first play, run or pass. Second bet we make every year, no score first 5.5, 6, 6.5, 7, 7.5. Whatever you can find, you can ladder it, but no score for the first half of the first quarter. Again, we expect a conservative game plan early. So what do we see? We see usually both teams punt before they score. That's another prop we can look at, but I like the no score, and I like the first play to be a run, and I bet those every single season. Why? Because they cash. First quarter bets worth making. This one's for beginning bettors. If you're new to betting the Super Bowl, watch this first. Because you got to remember, there are no bad lines on Super Bowl Sunday. The books are as battle-tested as it gets. And everyone wants to enjoy the action. It really is legitimately Christmas morning for sports bettors on Super Bowl Sunday. But it's key, it's okay to bet. It's okay to bet more, make more bets than you normally would on an average Sunday. But keep your unit sizes small. Have action, don't have, I really think I have a huge edge on this game action. That's how to enjoy Super Bowl Sunday without getting buried by your bookmaker. So I've bet every single Super Bowl here in Las Vegas since 1998. Yeah, I got old. What are you gonna do? So when the Broncos beat the Falcons, that was my first Super Bowl here in Vegas. And I'm gonna tell you how sportsbooks really win pretty much every Super Bowl. I've seen them lose once when the Giants beat the Patriots, who were 18-0. All the Giants money line cost the books to lose that one Super Bowl. The other 27, they've won since I've been in town. How do they win every year? 3 reasons. First, 11-10. Juice, vig, whatever you want to call it. The bettors need to win more than half their bets to break even. Books don't even need to win half because they have that built-in edge with the vig or the juice. Second, parlays. You guys know it, I know it. Everyone wants to bet a little to win a lot. The parlays are not profitable generally for anybody. And books clean up on that. And of course, third, the vast majority of recreational bettors, the type of bettors that come for Super Bowl Sunday here in Vegas, sucker bettors, sucker bets, they lose. So the books clean up on the Joes, the pros do okay, but year in, year out, sportsbooks find a way to grind out a profit and take money from your pocket and put it into theirs.